Good afternoon, my fellow EWATers. This is Shanti Kumaraswamy Street, calling from London, live today on Wednesday, the 2nd of August, for lesson 33 of Wednesdays with EWAT. Let's check whether we are live and we're coming in. Great! For those of you just coming in, tuning in, welcome to lesson 33 of Wednesdays with EWAT. Hi Keiko. Hello, I see Rosie has joined. Wonderful. So, how's everyone doing? Today, Wednesday, the 2nd of August, I'm looking outside of my window and it's raining quite heavily and it's quite cold. So, a typical English summer, I would say. So, it's rather miserable. But, you know, that's just living in the UK and summer in the UK. Hello, Mohammed. We shall overcome. Wow, that sounds a very, very inspirational name for you. Hi there. As always, as we start this lesson, I want to welcome any new viewers of this lesson, the live lesson. So welcome to Wednesdays with EWAT. For my regulars, so glad you can make it. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. Let me know how you're doing, what time it is where you are, and we'll get cracking. So hi Gordana. So lesson 33, what are we talking about today? We are going to be talking about speaking confidently and more fluently in English. And what I have today is a real treat for you. I have gathered some valuable tips from my fellow business English teachers, trainers, and coaches. And together we've put together a series of tips to share with you so that this will help you develop a technique for you to become more fluent and more confident speakers in English. Wow, I'm looking at people telling me what the temperatures are like. So it's 36 degrees in Milan, sunny and hot. Oh my gosh, that sounds too hot for me. Very hot in Catalonia. Hello Kenny, you're watching from Vietnam. Fantastic. Hello Arthur from Brazil. Wow, this is super. I am getting so many people, and I've got Genevieve saying hi Shanti, and you're from Cambodia. I am very well, Sok. Thank you so much. And how are you? Right, great. Hey, everyone, as you're tuning in and you're joining in, say hi. And, you know, that'd be great. If I do not acknowledge you straight away, please don't worry. It's only because we have to get cracking with this lesson. So for those of you who are coming in, let me remind you, we are lesson 33. And today we are talking about how you can become more fluent and, more importantly, confident speakers of English. And how we're going to do this is I'm going to be sharing with you 6 tips that my fellow business English teachers have shared with me, because I put it out there to my fellow teachers and I said, hey, can you give me some tips on what I can do to share with my readers and my fellow EWATers? Gabriela, hi. Abdul Hakim, hi from Kenya. Who else? Listen, let me just refresh my Facebook page so I can see where everyone is. Kenny, thank you so much for sharing my video. This is great. I hope also some of your friends on Facebook can enjoy this. Okay, so let's get down to it. Now, before I forget, and you know I always do this every week, if you haven't joined the EWAT community of professionals, then I would urge you, I'd recommend you to sign up and join the EWAT community. You can do that right now by looking at the Facebook page and clicking sign up at the top, just below my picture, my photo, and there you're going to receive lots of bonuses. Well, for starters, you're going to get 4 free bonuses from me, including an ebook, a free ebook, but then it allows you to join this ever-growing EWAT community of professionals. So I'd love you to join. Hello from Mongolia. Wow, this is so super good. I mean, it's just lovely. I just love this. All right, so let me see. Thank you, Rosie, for sharing my video. I hope other friends of yours on Facebook will follow the video and enjoy the tips that I'm going to share today. Now, it started off with the reason I decided to have this lesson is because so many of you, I'm sure you're the same. Many of my readers on my email list on EWAT often write to me and say, you know, Shanti, how can I improve my speaking? I want to be more confident. I'm okay with grammar. I'm okay with listening. I'm okay with reading. But when it comes to speaking, I freeze. I just don't know what to do. And how can I get better? How can I improve? And so this got me thinking, and I thought, well, okay, let me put together a lesson. But more importantly, I wanted to get some tips from also my fellow business English teachers, because there, you know, it is something that worries a lot of people. So here we are. In this class, we're going to look at 6 tips that I'm going to share with you. And they've not all come from me. As I say, they've come from a lot of my fellow teachers. So let's start off with tip 1. So the first thing is, this is one of my fellow teachers actually said, and this is what she does in her classes. She's also an expert in emotional intelligence. And she said to me that what she always says to her clients is re-educate your inner voice. So let me write this down in the comments, okay? I'm going to write tip 1. Tip 1 now. Oh, and by the way, before we continue, I would like you all, if you have, to pen and paper before we start this class, because there are lots of tips here, lots of pointers, and if you want to really follow and improve, then I would highly recommend that you make note of today's lesson. So pen and paper, I'm going to give you a few minutes to grab a pen and a piece of paper or a notebook if you've got next to you, and write down some of these points because they're valuable. So, you know, do that, okay? And then come back and give me a thumbs up so we can continue. But let's look at tip 1. So tip 1 I'm going to write down here is re-educate, and this is what I decided to call it, is to re-educate your inner voice. And I'm just writing it down here. Re-educate your inner voice. What is our inner voice? Now, we all have an inner voice, and I would gather that probably most fantastic, Genevieve, great that you've got pen and paper, you're ready. That inner voice, what does it tell you when you're learning English, when you're about to speak English? You know, you're trying to speak English. Okay, so here are some. It would be telling you, you know, let's see, it is, oh, I don't know enough. I'm too old to learn English. I'm just so slow. You know, the words just don't come through. And I'm scared of speaking because of my accent, because of my pronunciation. People are going to laugh at me. Oh, my English is just too horrible. You know, I just can't speak. Does that sound familiar to you? That inner voice telling you all this stuff about your English? You know, because you're okay with reading, you're okay with writing maybe, you're okay with listening, but oh, when it comes to talking, that is what your inner voice is saying. You sound terrible. You've got a terrible accent. You've got a terrible pronunciation. Nobody understands you. When you open your mouth, nobody... they all look at you blankly. They don't understand what you're saying. So does that sound familiar? Because I bet it does, because, you know, it's natural. So you've got this inner voice. Now, one, we're going to dominate this inner voice, and we're going to re-educate that inner voice. And this is what one of my fellow teachers told me. She said, now, what you need to do is ask that inner voice what stories you could share that are true about yourself and that could help you to feel better about yourself. So, sounds interesting, is it? So, what stories could you share that are true about yourself and that would actually help you feel better? So she's given me some examples, and here are some examples. Say, I'm a language learner, and I'm learning English. It is my second language or third language. It is only normal that I'm going to make mistakes. It's only natural that I'm going to make mistakes. I haven't been speaking the language like, the amount at the same time as I've spoken my native language. So it's only natural. I am going to make mistakes at this stage. I'm going to, it's always going to happen. Because, there are many native speakers and advanced learners of English, more proficient users of English, who do make mistakes. Because it's a natural human thing to make mistakes. Yeah? So, the fact that I'm going to make a mistake, natural. It's not the end of the world. If I didn't make mistakes, I wouldn't be a normal learner. Just think, you're learning to ride a bicycle, learning another skill, learning to sew, learning to do carpentry. You're going to make mistakes. It's only natural. You expect to make mistakes. So why is that not the same with English? Learning a language, speaking that language, you're going to make mistakes. It's only natural. If you didn't, you wouldn't be normal. In fact, you would be a robot, I would think. Tell yourself, I'm only going to get better every week. The more I practice, the more I try, I'm only going to improve. Yeah? So if I'm going to be improving, then it will. Because practice makes perfect. It is logical. The more I go running, the more I practice my carpentry, the more I practice my piano, I will get better. It is just natural. Then it's also a matter of time and practice. So if you don't have much time to practice, then consequently it's going to take longer. Yeah, elementary. But then I can only become fluent if I speak. Yeah, if you don't ever try and speak, if you don't ever open your mouth and try and have a conversation, or, put yourself in that uncomfortable position and speak, you're never going to learn. So there's a lot of fear, but if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. So hey, just do it. What have you got to lose? And because mistakes are part of the learning process, mistakes we make, the important thing is to learn from them. And the more mistakes we make, the better we learn. And the final thing she said was, if I don't make mistakes, then my teacher's going to be out of a job. Yeah, you see, then you won't need me. Then what am I going to do, right? What am I going to do for my Wednesday afternoons at 3 o'clock? I'm not going to have anything to do. So it's really important here. So tip number 1, re-educate that inner voice in yourself. Because here's the thing, we professionals, we adults, we have this inner voice that will do anything to stop you from feeling good about yourself. And every now we all need sometimes to put a pat on our back and say, come on, we deserve this. Give ourselves a break. Yeah, fear, like Sumesh says, forget everything and run. Absolutely. We fear, so we'll come up with any excuse why we're not improving. But we can. And the thing is to tell our inner voice, I'm learning, I'm going to make mistakes, it's natural. I cannot expect to be a proficient speaker of English if I never speak or if I never try. I have clients who say, oh, Chant, and I say, well, how much time have you got to practice? Think about it. How are you going to improve if you don't put the time and the effort? So dominate that inner voice, re-educate that inner voice. Tip 1. Okay, now we get to tip 2. And I think it's really important, that inner voice. So, keep that in mind. Now, tip 2 is fluency versus accuracy. So let's look at that, okay? Because many people say to me, and I'm sure you're one of them, is I would like to become fluent in English. What does fluency mean? And how different is it from accuracy? So when I'm fluent in something, I'm able to talk So most people, once they've gone through that beginner stage, so if you're an intermediate learner, which I'm hoping that all of you here on EWAT are intermediate and above, because that's the only way you're going to follow these classes. So if you're in that intermediate level, you're probably able to have a conversation in English. Yeah, you can talk about the weather, you can talk about your business, you can talk about yourself, you can talk about what you do as a job. So you're fluent in the fact that you can actually hold a conversation. Now, whether you make mistakes, that is a different conversation. That means is how accurate are you? How many mistakes do you make? So you see, the fluency is always to do with the amount of vocabulary you have. So you have got the vocabulary, you do know how to structure your sentences to have a conversation. Whether you then make mistakes with that, that's a separate situation. That's a different thing. That is then how accurate. Okay, so we have two things. And in language learning, this is another tip from one of my fellow teachers, is they said to me that fluency comes first, accuracy comes later. So the key here in becoming confident, feeling confident in your speaking, is to allow yourself to speak fluently, fluently in the sense of flowing. Let it flow. Don't worry about the mistakes you're making. Just get yourself into the habit of speaking. Forget that you might be making mistakes. Just speak. Now, it's not a question of having sophisticated language, it's speaking. Obviously, if the person you're speaking to doesn't quite understand, they will ask you questions, and you then respond to that and just start working. So when my clients want to work with me and we work on fluency, for example, I will record them and I will let them speak. And I always say to them, I am not going to correct you as you speak, because I want you to just be free to speak, to gather your thoughts and to speak freely. Then later, I will correct their English, because the point is to get that confidence of being able to keep talking, allowing yourself to let those words flow naturally for yourself. Accuracy then comes later. So when you speak, you can do that and you're not thinking, and okay, you're making mistakes. And because with language learning, with fluency, the more fluent you are, it's funny, the more mistakes you make. Why? Because you're not thinking about how to structure your sentences. And that's fine, because we need that. Think about children. Think about when you were a child and you were learning to speak. You didn't speak correctly. You were just listening and repeating what you were hearing. And we just speak fluently. Fluently, when we say fluently, means it's flowing. So when people tell me I want to speak fluently, they're talking about they want to speak accurately. But there are two different things here. Now, part of this tip is another teacher said to me, Gabriella, you're saying you need the vocabulary to have fluency without thinking before speaking. Yeah, so you build that vocabulary, but then you then use that vocabulary to speak. So test it, work with it, and don't worry about whether you've got your grammar right or the structure right. Just speak. Don't worry, we're getting to the tips on how you can get there. So you've got this, and you're now with the fluency and the accuracy. So people say to me, I want to speak fluently. What they mean is they want to speak accurately. But one of my teachers said that it's one of the things is you have to decide what's important in a given situation. Now I'm thinking of you as professionals using English in a professional context, okay? So supposing you have to engage in small talk with your fellow colleagues or perhaps with some customers. Now, is it so important that you be accurate with your English? Does your English have to be correct in terms of the tenses you're using? Or is it more important that you're able to speak freely on a number of topics and not worry about whether you're correct with your tense or your choice of words? So if it is more important, the vocabulary, yes, but to help you with the flow, to have the choice of words and to just speak fluently, flowingly, then fluency is more important than accuracy. By contrast, if you're, I'm just stopping here because Ramon is saying, my biggest problem as an English teacher, Spanish school, is that my teenage students are so reluctant to speak. And you're saying you're describing all their, let me just see, sorry, I've just stopped just to see what Ramon, you're describing all their problems apart from embarrassment. Yeah, they don't want to speak. They just think, oh, I'm going to be stupid. I'm going to feel stupid. But you're holding yourself back, nobody else. And so you have to get them to speak. Okay, going back to the professional situation. So, small talk, just flow. Now, by contrast, if you have to give a presentation to a company that's going to, in your company or to customers, and it's going to be maybe recorded and it's going to be posted on your company website, for example. In that situation, then your spoken English needs to be accurate. In other words, it needs to be more correct. So therefore, your tenses have to be correct, your use of grammar. So in that situation, you need to practice and focus on the accuracy. But if you want to be just helping yourself work on small talk, then you don't need to be accurate. You just need to allow yourself to speak freely. Because nobody in small talk, you're talking at a business dinner or business lunch, it's not the end of the world if you make a few mistakes. As so long as people understand you, but even mistakes, people can still understand you. So here, it's when you're looking at fluency and accuracy, tip 2 is look at, first decide the what is more important for you, fluency or accuracy, because it depends on the situation you're in. And so consequently, because you can't do everything. Really, you can't do everything. I get very frustrated sometimes with my Italian, when I think, oh, I didn't get it right. But then I think, does it really matter? Did people actually understand my message? So I'm engaging in small talk. So the fact that I made mistakes wasn't the end of the world. They understood me. Perfect. But if I have to speak at an important meeting, or I have to communicate an important message, then and people need to be very clear about that message, then yes, let's focus on accuracy. Then that's when you have to put extra practice on the accuracy. Because the thing is, when you become more accurate, your fluency is not as clear. Why? Because you start slowing down because you're thinking more carefully. Whereas when we are more fluent, then we're not so worried about the accuracy, and in fact we start making more mistakes. It's just how it works. But it doesn't matter. So depending on the situation, mistakes are allowed. So, this is really, really important. And more people need to understand that. Because otherwise, we will never try. We will be too scared to even try. I hope that makes sense. Please give me a thumbs up. I can always take this further if you want more clarification on that. So that's tip 2, looking at the difference between fluency and accuracy, deciding on what you need to focus on in any given situation, and deciding what is more important, fluency or accuracy. And then you work on those two. There you go. So great, so good. I'm so glad. So that's great. Now, tip 3. I hope you're all making notes. Yeah, I hope you are, because I'll be testing you later. No, I kid. Okay, tip 3. Got quite a few pointers here for tip 3, so I hope you're paying attention. Now, tip 3 is really important and this is where you can really help yourself. And tip 3 is record yourself. Now, all of us have got smartphones, or most of us have. And if you don't have, you can get little voice memo recorders, right? Now, recording yourself, here are some ways you can do that. Now, one of my other fellow teachers said, one of the things she often advises her clients to do is to record themselves. Now, for example, recording yourself is a great way to help you hear yourself. And I know most of you think, oh, I sound terrible, I don't want to hear myself, I hate it. And I know, I'm the same. I listen to myself, I think, good Lord, is that what I sound like? But it is important because it allows you to hear yourself. It allows you to recognize your pronunciation, your intonation. And it is very important. And also it allows you to practice. So, first of all, record yourself. And here are 3 scenarios I'm going to give you. First of all, it's if you're, for example, going to have to present an argument in a business meeting, why not record yourself presenting that argument? So you're at home, you're wherever, put on your smartphone, start recording and start speaking to yourself and say, there's a particular argument you've got to make in a presentation or in a meeting or whatever it is, or you want to ask for a pay rise or whatever. Practice it. Say, so practice it in English. This is what I want to do. Then listen to it again and see, does it sound good? Am I hesitating a lot? Okay, let me try it again. And keep practicing, recording yourself. If you've got to go into a job interview and you want to practice answering that, tell me about yourself. This is the post that was published in EWAT's blog last week in the weekly lesson. And you want to practice that. Okay, so you've prepared it. Practice it. Practice it as you're, don't read out, but just practice speaking. Get yourself used to recording yourself. We don't like it, but it's an incredibly useful tool. Another thing is, and again, this is my fellow teacher, Kirsten, who gave me this idea, and I thought brilliant, is get yourself into the habit of recording yourself every day. Maybe, for example, you start off in the morning, and why don't you just practice in English your to-do list? You're going to be you've got a whole series, you've got your whole day planned out. Why don't you practice it in English? Find out the vocabulary and then practice speaking it. So today I have a very important day. It's very busy. I've got to start off with sending those emails. I've got to prepare that schedule. I need to work on a couple of proposals. And then at 1 o'clock, I have a meeting with an important customer. Well, it's going to be important. It's going to be a very tricky meeting because nobody's going to hear you but yourself. But why don't you get into that? Okay, so this is a memo for Shanti. I need to do this. I need to do that. And you get into that habit of practicing that language, but in English. We all think about, every day you get up in the morning and then you start thinking of your day ahead and you start thinking about, this is what I've got to do. This is what I have. No. Lunch is going to be a business lunch, Rosie. So they're going to be busy during that lunch. It's business. No time for lunch for those, very important professionals. As some people say, lunch is for wimps. No, I kid. No. Time for lunch, yes. So you've got your meeting, your day planned ahead. You're thinking about what you've got to do. You're brainstorming anything. Right, let me put that in English. So get into that. Okay, this morning I have this. This morning I have to do that. Don't forget. Try doing that in English instead of in your own language. Try. And if you can't find the words, don't worry, put it in your language. Maybe if you have time later, check what the words are in English. But the thing is to get into that little habit of doing it. Start off, see what it's like. So get into that habit of recording your daily routine, first thing in the morning or lunchtime or whenever. I think first thing in the morning is great because you're fresh, you're awake, hopefully, and your mind is buzzing with ideas. And if you can't think of that vocabulary, make a note. Okay, I need to find out what that word is in English. I don't know what it is. And because it has meaning to you, you're likely to remember it more. Now, recording yourself is also a great way to track your progress. I do this a lot with my full immersion classes, where at the beginning of an intensive course, I record my client speaking. And at the end of the course, and it could be a 1-week course, it could be a 2-week course, I record them again. Because when we're speaking, when we're involved with speaking, we often forget the progress we are making. And it's important to go back and listen to yourself. So if you're recording yourself, and maybe after a month or after 2 months, listen back. So if you've got an iPhone, if you've got a smartphone, you can go back, you can record all this, you can save it in Dropbox or in Google Drive, wherever you want, and then go back to listen to yourself. And you will be amazed by the progress you have made. Some of my clients often say, oh, Shanti, I'm going backwards, I haven't gone forwards, it's a nightmare, I'm not improving. But actually they have improved. And when I make them listen to themselves, they notice a difference. It could be in the speed at which they're speaking. It could be fewer pauses. It could be that they're correcting themselves better. So there's all sorts of things. And so the more aware you are of the progress you're making, the more confident you become. The other thing that one of my fellow teachers said was perhaps to have a self-evaluation chart. So self-evaluation, evaluate yourself, decide. So you could do this, for example, on a scale of 1 to 10. So say you have a goal and you decide that you really want to be able to speak about a given topic. You want to feel confident speaking about a given topic. So it could be that you want to be able to talk about your job or talk about your working day more fluently. So set yourself that goal. And if you were to do it now and say, okay, from a scale of 1 to 10, so 1 being I don't feel at all confident, I just can't say one sentence in that for that topic, or 10, or I'm completely confident, I have no problem speaking about it. Then say to yourself, okay, where am I at this moment? Okay, this is where I am, maybe 5, 4, 6, okay. Now I would like to, at the end of say 1 month, get to level 9. And work on that. So you're going to be practicing it, you're going to be doing that. And so then at the end of 3 weeks, go back and think, well, how do I feel about that? Have I achieved it? How do I feel? Do I feel more confident? And that self-evaluation helps hugely, because you think, I can do it. Yes, I feel much better. And you evaluate yourself. And so voice feedback, you're saying voice feedback also. Yeah, you can have voice feedback. Now, Mars, you're saying thinking before speaking because of worrying about mistakes. So this is the difference, Mars, between fluency and accuracy. When you're too worried about making mistakes, you're going to stop talking. So the fluency doesn't happen. So fluency, accuracy slows fluency down, and fluency slows accuracy down. So they work in opposites, but they balance each other. So you have to decide, am I just going to work on my fluency and not worry about making mistakes, so I get more confident, and then in some situations think, now I'm going to work on my accuracy. So then it slows your fluency down. And that's just how it is, because that's how language learning is. So when we work on our accuracy, our fluency will slow down. But, you know, in normal conversations, in everyday conversations, you can't keep stopping because you're worried about mistakes. You have to let the conversation flow. You know, the other person is not going to sit there all day and wait for you. So think about that and go, okay, it doesn't matter if I'm making mistakes. I'm just going to try. I'm going to find a way. And you know, you can have also your hands and feet. Another teacher told me, You have ways of communicating that will help, and that person will maybe give you a word or help you communicate. So those are two things that are very, very different. So work on that. Yeah, don't forever worry about mistakes. We all make mistakes. We have to make the mistakes so that we can progress. So just choose what is more important, fluency or being completely accurate. So we're probably going to be going back to tip 2 a lot, because that's the big problem that most people have. So those are your 3 in terms of recording yourself, but I'm going to be giving you another tip on recording yourself. So listen to how you sound. So record yourself, your daily routine or whatever you're doing, just have it there, your smartphone on, just to record yourself, and then save it, put it somewhere and listen to it. Track your progress, because that's a great way of tracking your progress and thinking, you know what, I don't sound so bad. And it's amazing when I've done this exercise with my clients and they listen to themselves, they realize they don't sound as bad as they thought they did. And that is very, very important for us. Self-esteem is a huge thing. We need to feel good, that we are not so bad as we think. Okay, tip 4. Tip 4 is another tip from another fellow teacher who, she says this is especially good for small talk, which is to focus on one topic. So if you want to practice, now focus on one topic. And this is great for small talk, because small talk, when we engage in small talk in our professional lives, in our private lives, we can talk about all sorts of topics, can't we? I've done this in my book on Small Talk to Go. We discuss lots of things. We can be discussing the weather. We can be discussing food. We can be discussing, obviously, business issues. We can be discussing travel. We can be discussing cultural differences, all sorts of things. Now, that's a huge, huge area. So let's look at one topic. What would you like to discuss? Take, for example, gardening. Maybe you're interested in gardening. Take a topic that you're interested in, and then look at the language that surrounds that topic. So we take, for example, gardening, then have a look. So this is what she suggests. Maybe it's a hobby you have. So gardening, running, jogging, keep fit, cycling, all sorts of things. Then record yourself speaking about it for 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, so think about it. Now, maybe to help you, you can write down the words you already know in English about gardening, about running. So maybe running, we could be talking about the trainers you use, what time you go running, what's the best time to go running, what special apps you use to run, all sorts of things. You brainstorm the idea about what is it I like about my hobby, so think about the things that you want to talk about your hobby. Sketch down some things and then start talking and record yourself as you're speaking for about 2 to 3 minutes. The weather, talk about the weather, exactly, all sorts of things. If weather is your hobby, fantastic. Let's do that. Now, so you've talked about it for 2 to 3 minutes. Listen to yourself. You've spoken about it, record it, and listen. You think, okay, I was pausing there because I couldn't remember the word for this. Oh no, there, I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, so at that point then you think, okay, I'm missing some vocabulary. I need to find out that vocabulary. Go to your dictionary, go find out, make a note of those words. And also useful phrases, that you think, oh, I need them. Maybe you already know them, or you know them in your language. Now, what are the useful phrases I could use for in English? Maybe there's a blog you follow, or you've heard people talk about your particular hobby. Write down those useful phrases. Then incorporate those and put that again. So repeat now the exercise by recording yourself again, talking about your hobby for 2 to 3 minutes. This time you've got that missing vocabulary. Try practicing it. So the thing that I love about running is that it gives me that important time to myself. You know, I can do it anywhere. It's easy. I don't have to go to the gym. I don't have a fixed time. I can just go. I'm free. All I need are my trainers, my headphones. So, you know, all these words that you're thinking about, headphones, trainers, my app, and I'm out. I can go. I'm free. I just choose a route and I go. Whilst I'm running, I think about different things, or I like listening to music or podcasts. Kamal, exactly, the economic situation. If that's what you want to talk about, think about what all the language that you want to communicate. So probably think about it first in your language, and then look at that language in English. Find the words in English. But then if you're looking at it in a dictionary, look at how they've used that language in a dictionary. Now, there are a lot of online dictionaries that give you those phrases. Now, I would always suggest you use a monolingual dictionary. You have the bilingual, but then go into a monolingual like Cambridge Advanced Learners, Oxford, Macmillan, and then look at some examples of how they've used those words in a sentence, because you need to then develop that. And then practice saying it. And then think, okay, now how do I sound when I speak? Do I sound quite confident and fluent as I'm speaking about it? It doesn't matter the mistakes. You're just practicing using that language. So it gives you that confidence, and it helps you, you know, record. And also, it's just you. You don't have to worry if you're making a mistake, but it's giving that confidence of speaking. Then you listen to yourself, you think, did I like it? Let me try it a different way. How else could I say it? Oh, I like this word. How do I put that in? So it's a lot of experimentation, but it doesn't have to take long. Again, 2 to 3 minutes, 4, 5 minutes. We all have 5 minutes in a day to do this. So that's it, and it's great for small talk, particularly if you want to talk about different topics. You know, so make a note of that vocabulary and then practice saying it, using it. Now, with a lot of dictionaries now, the online dictionaries, they also give you the pronunciation of those words. So where you see the word, then it tells you what the pronunciation is. Make a note of that. Try and practice saying it. Repeat so that you hear yourself. Again, record yourself. So you think, okay, does that sound similar to what the online dictionary is telling me? Yeah, so that gets you thinking, oh, that's how it's pronounced. Okay, let me practice. Does it sound the same? Oh, no, it doesn't. Try again. Okay, so that's tip 4. That's great. So focus on one topic, especially for small talk, and build on that. And then repeat it. And then, you know, record it, and then you record it again, and then practice. And it just builds your self-confidence. Yeah, you just keep getting better. You think, oh, that sounded good. Oh, I'm pleased with myself. That really sounded good. And then you think, okay, I can do this. I'm good. I can do this. It's not that you're not going to make mistakes again. Of course you are. But every little bit counts. And that's the key. Okay, tip 5. This one is what I like here, because I was looking at this and I thought, wow, this is a nice one. Again, another fellow teacher came up with this idea, and it's to do with listening to podcasts. So you can improve your speaking by listening to podcasts. And you're probably going, huh? Podcast? But Shanti, surely that's just going to improve my listening skills. Yes, but not only that. You can use podcasts to improve your speaking. And here's how. Now, this is one from a fellow teacher, so I am not taking any I'm not taking any credit for it. Couldn't find my words, you see? Couldn't find my words. Now, here what she's suggesting is that Sumesh is saying sending audio clips for wishes like birthdays. That's a great idea. You could do that. You can send an audio clip to a friend to say happy birthday in English. Practice doing that rather than saying it in your language, doing that. Precisely. Just, great. There's such, we have really no excuse with all the apps we have nowadays to just practice. That's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so podcast. Now here, what we're going to be looking at is the particular podcast we're looking at. There are two types of podcasts. There are the monologue podcasts and there are the dialogue podcasts. So mono means one. Dialogue, two. So the monologues are where you have the podcast where there's one person speaking. Yeah, so you get to listen to this person who's speaking. And then there's the dialogue where you've got two people or more discussing a topic and whatever. Now, the difference with a monologue and a dialogue is you normally have with a monologue podcast, the speaker tends to speak more slowly. Whereas in a dialogue, they're speaking more quickly or more naturally. Because there's an exchange of, there's a conversation going. Now in this exercise, I want to look at monologue podcasts. So you keep, for example, there will be maybe news podcasts that you listen to where you're doing that. So what you're going to do when you pick a podcast you like, pick anything. Now you're going to be armed with notepad, pen and paper, so pen or pencil. You are going to have your recorder or your smartphone with you, and you're going to be listening to this podcast. So headphones, whatever you're doing, right? Now, as you're listening to this podcast, I want you to be writing down any new words you hear. So new words that you hear. So you're writing this down. So first of all, you listen to the podcast, listen to it once, and then listen to it the second time. Now, a lot of podcasts have transcripts on them. No problem. Read the transcript as you're listening. Again, this is not practicing listening skills. This is us practicing speaking. So if you have to, listen to the podcast whilst reading the transcript. Now, write down new words that you've never heard of or never seen before. Write those down. Then write down the words that are not new, but you've forgotten. You know, you heard them before, but you've forgotten what they mean. You know, I've seen that before, but I've forgotten what they mean. Write it down. And finally, write down the words that you are not familiar, well, you're familiar with. You've heard them before, but they're used differently. They've been used in a different way. You thought, oh, I thought they used it in this way, but oh, this is different. Okay, now you might think, oh, Shanti, this is too much. I can't remember all three. That's fine. Choose one. If you think, today I'm going to pick up just the new words, great, fantastic, that focuses. Next time you will listen to the same podcast episode and go for the words that you've heard before, but you can't remember what they mean. So choose one or the other. You don't have to do everything at the same time. So this is what we're going to do. So then you've got these new words and you made a note of them and we are going to look at them. Now we are going to, after that, you are going to summarize out loud the podcast episode. Yeah? So I'm just piping in because Rakesh has come in now. He's asking us, what is the topic today? Could someone please tell Rakesh what we're talking about? Rakesh, we are covering the tips on how to speak more fluently and confidently in English. And I'm giving you tips not just from me, but from other fellow business English teachers. We're now at tip 5. You'll get the recording of this later. So you've recorded some of these new words. You've recorded words that maybe you forgot. Now you are going to summarize this podcast episode. So first of all, you're going to write this down. So now I want you to use the key words. So you're going to summarize. What was this episode about? Okay, use the key words. Now, summarizing it, first you jot it down using your keywords. Do not write down an entire text. Just use keywords, phrases, expressions, and saying, okay, so this podcast was about blah, 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 whatever, great, okay. You're putting down notes, okay. And then you're going to summarize out loud. You are going to do that, and you're going to set yourself a timer. You're going to set yourself 5 minutes to summarize this podcast episode. So make your notes and then summarize it out loud. Set your timer and test yourself. Yeah, you're not recording anything at the moment, but you're just testing yourself. Now, why do I say do not write out an entire text? Can anyone tell me? Because I've had this before where I've asked clients, my clients are thinking, right, I want you to prepare something and you're going to speak to me. What they end up doing is they write down. What is the danger when you write out an entire script? You end up reading it. You don't end up speaking it, you end up reading. And what happens then? It then happens that you are just reading and it becomes this monotone. And it doesn't become natural. So if I want some notes, what you want to do is you want to be experimenting on how you're using those keywords to formulate sentences. So keywords could, expressions could be, well, we launched a campaign. So, so this podcast episode was about launching successful campaigns. So the journalist talked about how important it is to, so you could have keywords, how important it is, importance, good, bad, whatever, and just practice that. Just practice how important it was. Now try and summarize that in 5 minutes. Then try it again, but this time you're going to summarize in 3 minutes. You're going to bring it down. You're going to try to summarize even more. And so you're practicing. Okay, so how do I make this shorter? How do I make it all more condensed, more concise? So you're practicing that. And then after that, you record yourself. You've got to a point you think, okay, this sounds good. I've got this, because if someone told, if you said, oh, Shanti, you really got to listen to the latest podcast on so-and-so. That episode was fantastic. Really, what was it about? Oh, well, I don't have 20 minutes for you to tell me the summary of it. You need to give me a concise story about that episode, right? Tell me. Yeah, it's basically about this. They're discussing this, and he talks about the advantages and disadvantages of this, or the economic situation in this. They were talking about the problems they are having with, but really interesting, and I think you would find it, very helpful, because I know you're interested in that. That's what you're doing. You're not using complex language, so you're just thinking, how would I then cover that and summarize that to somebody if I want them to listen to the episode? Yeah, so think about it maybe that way, and then practice saying it out loud and then recording it. If you want to record yourself straight away, brilliant. Listen to yourself and then listen and go, no, that's too long. I'm pausing. Okay, start again. Let's do it again. Let me try it. Okay, that sounds better. Good. Now, the whole point of doing this is that the more you speak, the more you're practicing, then the better you just become, because you're just practicing speaking all the time. And you might be to yourself, but it's giving you that confidence of, yeah, I can string 2 words together. I can string a sentence together. And I don't suddenly go blank because I've got that practice in. And it helps you. It's like when we have to practice a presentation. If I don't practice it, I don't know whether my words are going to flow naturally. It's all up in my head. I've got to get it out from my head through my tongue out. I need to articulate it. I can have everything in my head, but if I don't get it out, I don't know whether it's going to sound good, sound right, sound natural. And that's the same way as when you're practicing speaking in English. So you can pick out little things and go, what do I want to practice on? Let me try this. And then because you're listening to English in other things, then you can see, does it sound good? Do I like how I sound? And don't be hard on yourself. Then think, yeah, I look good. I sound good. Great. Great. Let's keep going. So we've got 5 tips here. And finally, and now I've got more tips on how to use podcasts to improve your speaking, but I think I'm going to build that for another lesson, because this is a very helpful tip that one of my fellow teachers gave. And I think, I think it's important I share that with you. So I'll do that another time. Now, finally, last one is tip 6 is do not talk too fast. So many people try and speak as fast as a native speaker or as fast as a proficient speaker of English. But don't. Slow down. Slow down your language and speak. Now, what helps slowing down is to read things out loud in English. So wherever you see English, try reading it out. That's going to slow down your spoken language. And it helps you also with your pronunciation and with your intonation. Because as you read out, record yourself again, record, and hear yourself. So if I'm reading out something, so I'm saying, so in today's, maybe it's a news article, try reading it out. Try listening to how you sound. And then it slows down your speed, your spoken speed. Because then, you hear yourself, and it doesn't mean that you're rushing with all your words, because you can't speak as fast as a native speaker. You just can't. It's not natural, and it's asking too much of yourself. So slow that down. And so therefore, reading out loud is good. So there you have it. You've got your 6 tips that I've shared with you. So let's recap, right? The first one was re-educate your inner voice. Yeah, give yourself a break. Tell that inner voice that, hey, you know what? I'm learning. It's going to take a time, but I will get there. I am not as bad as you keep telling me I am. Re-educate that. 2, fluency versus accuracy. In any given situation, what is going to be more important? Being fluent or being accurate? Fluency comes first, then accuracy comes later. Once you've got that, once you've got used to and comfortable speaking, making mistakes, then we can focus on the accuracy. But it all depends on the situations. Because even if you're making mistakes, it doesn't matter depending on the situation you're in. And I can't stress that strongly enough. Tip 3, record yourself. Use every opportunity you can to record yourself. Don't be afraid. Recording yourself allows you to listen to how you sound, allows you to practice, to articulate what is all in your mind out there. Get into the habit of recording yourself every day, maybe talking through. It also helps you develop your vocabulary. You learn new vocabulary, try using it by incorporating that every day. Recording, listening, and thinking, wow. It allows you to track your progress, recording yourself. If you give yourself a goal after 1 month, see what is the progress. You will be amazed. Create a self-evaluation chart. So therefore you can see, this is what I want to do. How am I going to achieve it? Tip 4, focus on a topic. So particularly for small talk, if you want to build on your small talk, focus on one particular topic, build your vocabulary on that, and practice speaking about that topic. Tip 5, listen to podcasts, and again, try and summarize that episode, learning those tips. And finally, tip 6, don't talk so fast. Don't try and talk fast. Slow down, enjoy it. You don't need to speak fast. So there you have 6 tips, not just from me, but from my fellow business English teachers. I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you pick one, tell me what it's like, try these out. There is no right way or wrong way, but the important thing is you're the worst enemy. If you don't try, you will never improve. You will never get going. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. That's the only way you're going to learn. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you, Keiko. Thank you, Genevieve. Thank you. Who else just told me thank you? Wamama, I think you just told me, thank you. Wamaima, sorry, pardon me. Thank you so much to all of you for joining me in this lesson. I hope it was helpful. See you next week for lesson 34. But do let me know if you want to listen. You want me to cover any particular topics, and I will put something together and share it with you. So this is me, Shanti Kumaraswamy Street, saying ciao for now to my wonderful fellow EWATers. See you next week on the 9th of August. We will talk about another topic on business English. Take care. If you're in very hot climates, stay cool. If you're in a cold climate like me, I'll stay warm. And we'll see you next week. Ciao for now, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.